In 1685, Johann Sebastian Bach was born in Germany into a musical dynasty that would span nearly 3.5 centuries. His father was a string player in the castle of the Duke of Eisenach, and he taught Johann Sebastian to play violin. His father's cousin, Johann Christoph, was an organist at the church where Johann Sebastian sang as a boy. He would sneak into the church after school some days just to hear him practice. When Johann Sebastian was 10 years old, both his parents became ill and died. He and his brothers moved in with their older brother, Johann Christoph. His brother had become the organist at St. Michael's Church in Ohrdruf when he was just 18 years old. Johann Christoph taught Johann Sebastian to play the organ. The new school Johann Sebastian attended was a famous school for trying new teaching ideas. The students were encouraged to learn by doing and to find the answers for themselves. Johann Sebastian was a quick learner, but his brother said he wasn't ready to learn the pieces in a book of famous composers that were in the cupboard. So at night, J.S. Bach snuck downstairs and copied the notes by hand using only moonlight so he wouldn't wake anyone up. It took him 6 months. That was how badly he wanted to learn to play the pieces in this book. In 1700, when he was 15, he was granted a scholarship to St. Michael's School in Lüneburg for his fine singing voice. One summer, he wanted to go hear a concert given by Johann Adam Reinken, 200 miles away, but he didn't have any money to go by coach, so he walked. It took him 4 days. He loved the concert and was glad he made it. When Bach was around 18 years old, he was hired to be the organist at a church in Arnstadt. This organ had been played by members of Bach's family for nearly 100 years. Here, he had access also to a brand new Wender organ and was paid twice the salary of his predecessor. Bach liked the job, except for teaching students who played in the church orchestra, many of whom were older than him and did not respect Bach. One of the students was a bassoonist named Johann Geierbach. When this man insulted Bach's musical abilities, Bach called Geierbach a nanny goat bassoonist. Meeting on a street corner, Geierbach threatened Bach with a stick, and Bach drew out his sword. The two ended up wrestling on the ground until other students broke up the fight. In 1707, Bach married Maria Barbara, his second cousin. Her father was organist and town scribe in Geren, and a great vocal music composer. In 1708, Bach began working for the Duke of Saxe-Weimar, William Ernst, first as organist, then the leader of the orchestra in Weimar. The Duke cared little for music, but liked prestige, and Bach was already someone that other people thought highly of. In 1714, Bach was given a diamond ring by the Crown Prince Frederick of Sweden, who was amazed at his playing. While Bach was known as a virtuoso organist, he was also temperamental and liked his drink. A surviving bar bill from 1713 shows that he drank 32 quarts of beer in 2 weeks. When the head of the court musical establishment died, Bach wanted the position, but the Duke appointed the former head's incompetent son for the post instead. Furious, Bach asked to leave so that he could accept a post with Prince Leopold. Annoyed at Bach's impertinence, the Duke had Bach jailed for 4 weeks in a fortress. The court secretary eventually accepted Bach's resignation, but he was only released in disgrace and without pay for the remainder of the year. On the 300th anniversary of Bach's arrival in Weimar in 2008, Bach's release in disgrace was officially annulled. Freed, Bach was able to take the position with Prince Leopold. The talented prince, who was proficient on the harpsichord, violin, and viola, soon became friends with Bach. In 1720, when Bach was 35, he accompanied Prince Leopold on a trip. Upon his return a few months later, he was shocked to learn that his wife, Maria Barbara, who had been in fine health when he left, had died and already been buried. A year and a half later, Bach married Anna Magdalene. She often helped her husband write out the parts for his compositions. Anna Magdalene was a soprano opera singer, and when she married Johann Sebastian, she was a professional with the second highest salary of court musicians, only lower than that of her husband. She became stepmother to his children, and together they had many more. Bach had a total of 20 children, although 10 of them did not live past the age of 5. Of the survivors, 4 of them became famous composers. In 1723, Bach took the position of director of church music for the city of Leipzig, where he was musical director at the St. Thomas Church and was responsible for music at 3 other churches in the city. He remained there for the next 27 years. Bach was slowly losing his vision as he aged. In 1750, Bach had 2 eye operations performed by the traveling English eye surgeon John Taylor, now known to have been a self-promoting charlatan who blinded hundreds of patients. In the first operation, without anesthesia, a needle was poked into the eye to push the cataract-clouded lens into the rear of the eye. The second operation was performed about a week later due to the reappearance of the cataract. The operations led to many painful complications, including inflammation of the middle layer of the eye, bleeding, retinal detachment, infection, and fever. Bach was completely blind after the operations. Not long after, the same surgeon operated on George Friedrich Handel, leaving him blind as well. Bach was confined to bed and suffered from immense pain. He had a stroke and died less than 4 months after the second operation. Bach wrote over 1,000 pieces. However, after his death, his work was forgotten by most of the general population. Not so by musicians and composers who were greatly influenced by Bach. Ludwig van Beethoven called Bach the immortal god of harmony. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart said, "Bach is the father. We are the children." Felix Mendelssohn was so inspired by Bach's work that he gave a concert of St. Matthew's Passion almost 100 years after Bach wrote it. This event is credited with reigniting the interest in Bach, which has continued to this day. As Johann Brahms says, study Bach. There you will find everything.